Employment Relations Secret Ballot for Strikes Amendment Bill, Committee Stage.
I declare the House in Committee for further consideration of the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill and consideration of the Employment Relations Secret Ballot for Strikes Amendment Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. The House in Committee for further consideration on the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill and consideration on the Employment Relations Secret Ballot for Strikes Amendment Bill. Members, we move first to further consideration of the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill. When we last considered this bill, debate was on Clause 2 and that the Honourable Marianne Street had the call. She's got approximately 4.5 minutes remaining. She doesn't appear to want to take the call.
Chair.
Mr. Robertson is calling. I give the call to Mr. Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't know if I could say it's a pleasure to take a call on this particular bill and this particular clause, but I certainly am happy to do so. Now, we're debating Clause 2, which is the commencement clause, in which there is an amendment, which I think is obviously a good reason for us to debate at some length whether or not this would be a good idea. And the amendment that the Select Committee made was to change so that the Act came into force on the 1st of January 2012. Now, the reason that the Select Committee did that was because they were concerned that, or the members of the committee, most of them anyway, were concerned that student associations and institutions would need time to prepare for a change such as this one. And as we now are in 2011, and this was 2010, when the decision was made that it should be the 1st of January 2012. I think that gives good grounds for supporting the amendment in my name that's on the table, which is to actually omit the words 1 January 2012 and substitute the words 1 January 2013. I think, obviously, on this side of the House, everybody's well aware that we oppose this bill in principle, because we do believe that it is going to, in effect, destroy student associations.
And in totality.
That's the evidence that we have from Australia, and I can't see anything that's been brought before this House that would tell us that it would be any different in New Zealand. We believe that student associations play a critical role in the health and well-being of students and in their academic progress, and we believe that this bill should not proceed at all. But if we are in a position of looking at a commencement clause, we do need to give the affected associations time to adjust to that. And as I say, in 2010 it was thought that the commencement date could be 1 January 2012. We are now in 2011, and I believe we do need to look further to moving the commencement date out to 1 January 2013. Already talking to student associations over their conferences over the summer break, they are, and certainly from the university end, beginning to talk to institutions about, well, if this bill were to pass, what would we do? Those discussions are going to take time. Those discussions are going to be difficult because one of the criticisms this side of the House has of this bill is that it puts in the hands of the institutions what services students will get. When we were campaigning against this in the 1990s, we used to have posters that said, do you want the Vice-Chancellor to choose the music for orientation?
Probably
because
not.
No, certainly in the case of some Vice-Chancellors I know, I wouldn't be wanting to do that. Although Steve Mahari would be the exception to that, a man with impeccable music taste. But that's actually the point here. No, it is, it's very good. That's the point here, is that student associations will no longer have control of the services that are provided. Students lose control, and institutions will be those that will be deciding whether or not there are services via the agreements they might have with associations or whatever they provide themselves. So in order for the discussions and the negotiations that need to take place over this matter, having a commencement date of 1 January 2012 I don't believe is sufficient, Mr Chair. I think that it needs to extend out to 1 January 2013. There is also the option provided, should the House not wish to take up my suggestion of 1 January 2013 as the date, for a number of other dates through the period of December and perhaps even further back than that in terms of this clause. Because if the promoter of this bill is serious that she does not want to destroy student associations, which she does claim, then she should at least look at how how this legislation could be phased in to enable those student associations to actually have some kind of ability to get ready, to prepare themselves and to perhaps make agreements with institutions. On that point, Mr Chair, I would say that one of the big concerns we have on this side of the House is not so much for university student associations who, while they will have the problem of no longer being able to have students control student affairs, most of them are large enough that I'm sure the institutions will contract for services with them. But that won't happen in politics. That will not happen in most of the politics around New Zealand, and those politics student associations will not be able to survive and I don't believe will be contracted for services. So they need even more time, Mr Chair, to be able to prepare themselves for this bill, and they need a commencement date that is far further on than 1 January 2012. Because Polytech students are transitory by nature. They only come in usually for 1- and 2-year courses, sometimes a lot shorter. The infrastructure of the student associations is not built up in the way it is inside university student associations, and I think that they of all people, need a longer period of time for the institutions and the student associations where they are still going on polytechnic campuses to be able to come up with a plan that still means student services are provided, because at this stage we cannot guarantee that.
Ian Lees-Galloway.